Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
What? Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is present. Happy Sunday, everyone. Thank you for joining me and welcome back to the channel. Today is yet another just very bad day to be David Miscavige. I'm talking about Scientology's tiny little leader. He's been in hiding for a while. He's avoiding process servers. He's facing several civil lawsuits. And this week I learned that the UK government has opened an investigation into Scientology for major violations of British maritime law. Many of you, I'm sure, already know that Scientology operates its own cruise ship. This cruise ship is called the Free Winds. It operates in between the ABC Islands, that is Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. It specifically stays out of United States waters. When Scientology wants to make one of its staff members magically disappear so that they are unavailable to speak with authorities for any of a variety of civil or criminal matters, the Free Winds is very often where they send people. This cruise ship is staffed exclusively by members of Scientology's Sea Organization. In the eyes of the law, the Sea Org is the clergy or the ministry of Scientology. And yet, despite the fact that the Sea Organization has this very real, important, and acknowledged status within Scientology, the Sea Organization itself, legally speaking, does not exist. It is not a corporation. It is not a membership organization. It is not a nonprofit. The Sea Organization is somewhat of a shadow organization that exists behind the corporate structure of Scientology. Miscavige doesn't even sit on the board of any of Scientology's organizations or corporations, and yet he has absolute control over Scientology through his control of the Sea Org. I'm mentioning the role of the Sea Org because Sea Org members in Scientology can be sent to any organization for any reason at the drop of a hat. Sea Org members swear absolute loyalty and obedience to the Sea Org and not so much to the organizations within which they actually work. And herein lies the rub of how Scientology has fallen afoul of British maritime law, because Sea Org members from the UK are routinely sent to work as staff members on the Free Winds cruise ship. And Scientology does this, and the Sea Org does this, without any regard for the laws that exist to protect British citizens from what you might call indentured servitude out on the high seas. So what Scientology does, it'll take Sea Org members from Britain and it will send them to Clearwater, Florida. Well, they'll do sort of a boot camp, if you will, to prepare them to work on Scientology's cruise ship. And then they will send them from the United States directly to the cruise ship. But these are British citizens, and there are British laws that govern what British citizens are required to do before they are allowed to be sent to work on a ship. So one such requirement, for example, is a British citizen has to pass what they call an ENG1 medical exam. Here's a little bit of information from online about it. It says if you're planning to work at sea, then you must have a medical fitness certificate to prove that you don't have any serious medical conditions that could prevent you from performing your duties. If you work on shore and the worst were to happen, then help would probably arrive quickly. However, at sea, medical treatment can be days away. Therefore, seafarers are asked to complete a medical fitness test to minimize the risk of medical emergencies at sea. The UK Maritime and Coast Guard Agency approves two types of medical certificates, ML5, valid for 5 years, and ENG1, which is valid for 2 years. So you can see the ENG1 medical is the bare minimum requirement, and the Sea Organization and Scientology absolutely does not have its people pass an ENG1 medical. And realize this language, this is specifically for British citizens. And the fact is, I can personally guarantee you, and I know because of the investigation that's going on, is the British government has caught wind of the fact that Scientology has been sending British citizens to work on its cruise ship without even the bare minimum legal requirements met. And in addition to this required medical exam and medical certificate, one of the other legal requirements that any British person needs in order to work on a ship or a yacht is something called a Seaman's Discharge Book. That really is what it's called. And I know what you're thinking, and you're disgusting. So this thing is called a Seaman's Discharge Book. And here is how this thing is described on one of the British government websites. Seaman's Discharge Book. A Seaman's Discharge Book is a full record of a seaman's career experience and certification. You need a discharge book if you are either a British citizen who works on ships or large yachts, or not a British citizen, but employed on a UK registered ship or large yacht. There are 6 exemptions listed here for when you would not need this book, and Scientology's cruise ship, the Freewinds, does not meet any of these 6 exemptions. Let's take a look at it real quick. On a ship that does not go to sea, the Freewinds does go to sea. On a pleasure boat and do not receive any pay, well, Sea Org members can potentially not receive any pay, but the Freewinds is not just a pleasure boat. It is a boat that is operated for commercial activity by a nonprofit. This exemption does not apply to them. Only for the purpose of testing the ship, so obviously that doesn't apply. By the Crown, so that doesn't apply. Specifically for the construction, alteration, so that doesn't apply. On an unregistered ship, so that doesn't apply. All British citizens working on the Freewinds are required to have a Seaman's Discharge Book, and I can tell you none of them do, and none of them ever have. And there is a third violation that the UK government has become aware of, and they are thoroughly investigating because this is highly illegal. I'm reading this from a message. It says, "It is also illegal under British law for any agency, regardless of whether it is a religion, to allow any person to work as a crew member on a ship if it is classified as voluntary." Now, this is very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense because calling someone a volunteer while requiring them to work as a crew member on a ship would be the absolute perfect cover for human labor trafficking. And in effect, that is what you have on Scientology's cruise ship. All of these Sea Org members are classified as religious volunteers. That's another reason why I mentioned the Sea Org early on in the video. All Sea Org members are legally considered religious volunteers. There is no required pay. Even when Sea Org members are paid full pay, it's $50 a week. I was in the Sea Org for many years, and I can tell you that when income was tight, the first thing that got cut from the expenses every week was Sea Org pay. It's very often for Sea Org members to receive no pay at all. And the reason this is not a violation of the minimum wage laws in the eyes of the law is because Sea Org members are considered religious volunteers. Well, maybe that flies when you're working at a land base in the United States, but apparently it does not fly when you are operating a ship staffed with British citizens. And it is for these reasons that the UK Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, or MCA as it's called, has opened an investigation into Scientology's violations in the UK and on the Freewinds cruise ship. And the MCA has contacted many former British crew members of the Freewinds and has been collecting from them evidence about the conditions on board the Freewinds and whether these basic legal requirements were met, and is also asking these people for the names of any other British citizens who are currently serving or has served in the past on the Freewinds ship. And so this is one of the wonderful things about having a platform like this, where so many Scientologists and under the radar Scientologists watch, because it allows me to let all of you out there know that the British government is energetically, enthusiastically, and aggressively collecting as much information as it can from former Scientologists, British former Scientologists who have had anything to do with the Freewinds. Anyone who, as a British citizen or someone on a British passport who was serving on the Freewinds ever. If that is you, if that applies to you, or if you know anyone who it applies to, get in touch with me and I will put you in touch with the authorities who are collecting this information. You can reach me at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. You can reach me through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you want to contact me anonymously, you can. Before I put you in touch with the final ultimate person, I probably need to know who it is that I'm talking to, but we can get all that sorted out. Just contact me, email address, social media, whatever works best for you. These are pretty major violations, even though it might seem like, oh, gee, it's just a medical exam. It's just a little book. These are actually very serious issues to prevent indentured servitude and trafficking. And the fact that Scientology has been in blatant violation of these laws for decades and decades. What will bring Scientology down is the kind of violations that the government can sink its teeth into without having to delve into what is protected religious activity. and what is not protected religious activity. Things like credit card fraud, bank fraud, wire fraud, and trafficking issues that have to do with immigration matters are the stuff that will eventually see Scientology prosecuted and its tax-exempt status revoked. And anything I can do to help that effort, well, that's just what I'm here for, guys. So the MCA has already successfully been in touch with many British former Free Winds staff members, and this is just my effort to get them all to come out of the woodwork as much as possible. One of the biggest challenges here is letting people even know that something like this is happening. So that's why doing a video like this was so important. If this applies to you or anyone else you know, help me get this information to them, and please put them in touch with me. All right, everybody. Well, before I sign off, one last thing. My regular plug for these gorgeous little Mike Rinder bobblehead dolls. They're just so cute. Guys, these bobbleheads are sold at the spshop.com. 100% of the proceeds from the SP Shop go to the Aftermath Foundation, which helps people who are escaping from Scientology. Mike Rinder's on the board of the foundation, as am I. So we've got hundreds of these puppies in inventory. They're not doing us any good on the shelves. So go get yourself one or even two today. All right, guys, that is all I've got. Have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right